You may have been drawn to this reading for a reason. There may be something in your energy right now that feels sensitive, not loud, not chaotic, but quietly exposed, like part of you has been trying to stay strong while another part has been carrying something older, something deeper, if that is where you are. This message may be meeting you at the right time, because the energy around this reading feels very intentional, very gentle, and very honest. It feels like your spirit is ready to look at something now that it may not have had the safety to look at before. And if this reading resonates with you, you can subscribe, like, or leave a comment. That small exchange of energy helps support the channel and allows these messages to reach the people who may need them most. Now let's move softly into your first card. I'm seeing the Two of Wands here, and right away, I'm getting the feeling that this card is showing me a wound that did not begin in the moment of attack. It began much earlier. This feels like a place in you that learned to stay watchful, a place that became used to sensing what might come next, used to scanning the energy, used to preparing, even before anything fully happened. There is a quiet loneliness around this card, a feeling of standing in your own inner world, holding yourself together, holding your vision, holding your light, and maybe doing that without the kind of protection you truly deserved. What I'm picking up here is that the original wound was not weakness. It was overexposure. It was having to become spiritually alert too soon. It feels like at some point, you learned that not everyone approaching you was approaching with clean energy, and because of that, part of you may have developed a deep habit of anticipation. You may have become very intuitive, very perceptive, very aware, but also a little tired in ways other people could not see. This card feels like the moment before movement, the moment before choice, the moment where your soul knew something was changing, but you were still standing in the threshold of it. That threshold energy matters, because sometimes the wound is not only what happened to you. Sometimes the wound is how long you had to stand alone holding the awareness of it. The energy around this card suggests that the opening came through emotional vigilance, through being the one who sensed more than others realized, through carrying insight without always having confirmation. And that may be why this situation touched such a deep place in you. Not because you are fragile, but because it brushed against something ancient, something unfinished, something your soul is now ready to understand differently. And I feel like the next card is going to show us more about how that wound shaped the pattern that followed. So stay with me here, because the story is only just beginning to open. And now I'm seeing the King of Cups. And this changes the feeling in a very important way, because what comes through here is not emotional weakness. It is emotional discipline. It is the part of you that learned to stay composed, the part of you that learned to hold everything in, the part of you that became calm on the surface, even when something deeper was moving underneath. I'm picking up that the subconscious belief connected to this card may have been something like this, that if you stayed steady enough, loving enough, understanding enough, then the storm around you would eventually settle. That if you remained emotionally mature, you could carry what others could not. That if you kept the peace within yourself, you might also soften what was coming from outside of you. And in many ways, that belief came from strength, real strength, soul strength. But it also may have opened a quiet doorway, because this card feels like someone who became so skilled at containing emotion that they sometimes held too much silence, too much patience, too much spiritual composure in situations that were asking for clearer boundaries. The energy around this card suggests that you may have believed it was safer to manage the emotional current than to interrupt it. Safer to stay centered than to fully name what felt off. safer to transmute than to withdraw. And that is not a flaw. It feels more like an old inner agreement, an agreement that said your wisdom had to be stronger than the distortion around you. But I'm getting the feeling that this dynamic lasted in part because your spirit kept trying to bring peace to something that was not being created in peace. You may have been meeting confusion with compassion, distance with understanding, energetic pressure with restraint. And while that says something beautiful about your depth, it also shows how much you were carrying alone. This card feels like the hidden belief was not that you deserved harm. Not at all. It feels more like you believed you had to emotionally master what should never have been yours to absorb. And that is a very different thing. Very different. I feel like the next card is going to show us what part of this pattern you may have avoided seeing at the time. Because something deeper is beginning to come into view now. And now I'm seeing the Knight of Wands reversed. And this feels like the pattern becoming more visible, more honest, more precise. Because the energy here feels restless. It feels reactive. It feels like something enters your space fast, then leaves confusion behind. I'm picking up that the pattern you may still be unconsciously tolerating is not always obvious in the beginning. It may come in as intensity, as urgency, as a sudden shift in energy that asks you to adjust very quickly. Very quickly. This card feels like a cycle where disruption moves first, and clarity comes later. So you may have become used to stabilizing after the fact, used to recovering, used to making sense of things once the energy has already passed through you. And that matters. Because when a pattern repeats enough times, the soul can start adapting to instability as though it is normal. Not because it wants chaos, but because it has learned how to survive it. The energy around this card suggests that some part of you may still be tolerating inconsistency, not only from people, but from energetic environments, from emotional currents that are unpredictable, from moments where something feels off, but moves so fast that you do not always pause long enough to name it. I'm getting the feeling that this card is showing a habit of overriding your first inner signal. That first moment when your spirit notices acceleration. Not expansion, acceleration. There is a difference. Expansion feels open. Acceleration feels pressured. And you may be beginning to see that more clearly now. This does not mean you caused what happened, not at all. It simply means your nervous system may have become familiar with managing scattered or invasive energy. Familiar enough that your deeper self learned to endure it before questioning it. That is the unconscious tolerance this card is pointing to. The quiet acceptance of what unsettles you. The quiet accommodation of what drains you. The quiet hope that if you stay grounded enough, the disturbance will pass on its own. And maybe sometimes it did. But I'm seeing here that your soul is no longer meant to normalize that pace. No longer meant to keep making room for energies that arrive without peace. Let that settle for a moment, because I feel like the next card is going to show us the deeper fear underneath this pattern. And that is where even more understanding begins to open. And now I'm seeing the Two of Pentacles. And this feels very telling, because the fear here does not feel loud on the surface. It feels practiced. It feels familiar. It feels like the fear of having to keep managing too much at once. I'm picking up that this situation may have activated an old survival rhythm in you. A rhythm where you had to stay flexible, stay alert, stay balanced, even when something around you was not stable, even when something around you was asking too much of your energy. This card feels like the deeper fear is not only about what was sent toward you, it is also about what it might cost you to keep adjusting around it, what it might drain from you, what it might pull your attention away from. There is a quiet exhaustion around this card. Not collapse, but the tiredness of always having to rebalance, always having to check the energy, always having to hold yourself together while also keeping life moving. And I'm getting the feeling that this fear may come from earlier experiences where instability became normal, where you learned to function inside uncertainty, where you learned to keep going even when the ground underneath you did not feel fully secure. That kind of strength is real. But it can also create a hidden fear, the fear that peace will not last, the fear that as soon as you settle, something will shift again. The energy around this card suggests that what has been activated here is the fear of being pulled back into emotional overmanagement, back into the role of the one who must absorb, adapt, and carry the weight without dropping anything. And that is a heavy role, a very heavy role, especially when your soul is already asking for more stillness now, more steadiness, more trust. I'm also seeing something else here. This card can point to the fear of losing your center while trying to protect what matters to you. Your peace, your focus, your spiritual clarity, your everyday life. So this fear is not small. It is tied to safety. It is tied to stability. It is tied to whether you can finally live without always preparing for the next disturbance. Just notice that. Notice how much compassion this part of you deserves. Because I feel like the next card is going to show us what your soul is being asked to accept now. And that may bring a deeper kind of release. And now I'm seeing the Fool. And this feels like such an important turning point. Because the truth that must now be accepted is not only about what happened around you, it is also about where your soul can no longer remain. I'm getting the feeling that this card is asking you to accept that you cannot keep walking with one foot in protection and one foot in old fear. Something in you is ready to move differently now, more freely, more clearly, more lightly. Not because the past was imagined, not because the conflict was small, but because your spirit is no longer meant to organize its future around the expectation of harm. That feels very important, very healing. The energy around this card suggests that one illusion is beginning to fall away now. And that illusion may be the belief that you must fully understand every shadow before you are allowed to move forward. You do not. You do not need to solve every hidden motive. You do not need to carry every unanswered question. You do not need to keep looking backward just to prove to yourself that what you felt was real. It feels like your soul already knows. And because it knows, it is beginning to choose movement. This card also carries a kind of sacred innocence, not naivety, not forgetfulness, but innocence restored, the kind that returns after you have seen enough to know better, and still choose not to let fear become your identity. That is powerful, very powerful. I'm picking up that the truth here is this. Some chapter of overvigilance must end before your next chapter can begin. You are being asked to accept that freedom is not betrayal of your pain. Joy is not denial. A new beginning is not weakness. It is alignment. It is trust returning. It is your energy stepping out of the old field and onto different ground. And maybe part of you has already been feeling that. That quiet pull towards something cleaner, something simpler, something no longer shaped by survival alone. Let that settle gently, because I feel like the next card is going to show us the strength that has been hidden underneath all of this. And that strength feels ready to come into the light now. And now I'm seeing the Eight of Swords reversed. And this brings a very noticeable shift, because the protection around you does not feel loud. It feels quiet, steady, already working. I'm getting the feeling that your strength right now is not coming from force. It is coming from release, from the loosening of something that once had access to your mind. This card feels like a cord beginning to weaken, a fog beginning to lift, a pressure beginning to lose its hold. And that matters. Because sometimes the first form of spiritual protection is not a wall. Sometimes it is clarity. Sometimes it is your energy no longer agreeing to stay trapped inside fear, confusion, or overanalysis. The energy around this card suggests that you are already being guided out of a mental enclosure, out of the space where you had to question everything, out of the space where you had to keep circling the same tension, out of the space where uncertainty kept feeding itself. I'm seeing here that your protection may be arriving through awareness, through truth, through the return of your own inner sight. And as that sight returns, certain energies simply cannot move through you in the same way anymore. That is very powerful, very stabilizing. There is also something compassionate in this card. It feels like Spirit is not asking you to fight harder. It is asking you to notice where the door is already opened. Notice where your breath is returning. Notice where your body is no longer bracing in the same way. Notice where your mind is beginning to say, very softly, I do not live there anymore, because that is strength too. Real strength, the kind that does not need to prove itself, the kind that quietly becomes unavailable to what once fed on entanglement. I'm also picking up that this protection has been growing for longer than you realize. You may only now be seeing the evidence of it, the small shifts, the clearer instincts, the quicker recoveries, the deeper refusal to let old disturbance define your field. Something is already changing around you. Something is already loosening. And I feel like the next card is going to show us what your soul is now being asked to release completely. So stay open here, because the message is moving into an even deeper layer of freedom. And now I'm seeing the star reversed. And this feels very deep, very quiet, very karmic, because the cycle completing here seems tied to spiritual depletion, to the long season where your light may have been present, but harder for you to feel. I'm picking up that this karmic cycle is not only about what was done, it is about what you were left carrying afterward, the doubt, the fatigue, the subtle disconnection, the moments where hope felt farther away than it should have. This card feels like the ending of a chapter where your energy was being pulled into recovery again and again. A chapter where healing kept being interrupted, where trust kept being tested, where your spirit may have been asking for rest, but still had to remain alert. And that is a real burden, a very real burden. The energy around this card suggests that a cycle of dimming yourself in order to survive is now coming to completion. A cycle of tending to the wound while quietly postponing your own expansion. A cycle of wondering whether peace would fully return. It feels like cosmic order is beginning to restore something here, not all at once, but steadily. You are beginning to come to the end of an energetic era where depletion was teaching you what discernment could not yet fully name. And I'm getting the feeling that this is why things may feel strange right now. Not because you are lost, but because your soul is adjusting to the end of an old contract, an old pattern of carrying spiritual heaviness that was never meant to become your normal. There is sadness in that, but there is also release, because when a cycle like this completes, you do not only lose the pain, you also lose the identity built around enduring it. That can feel tender. That can feel unfamiliar. But it is sacred. Very sacred. I'm seeing here that what is ending is the karmic season of inner dimming, of second-guessing your own radiance, of trying to heal while still standing in the field that drained you. That season is loosening now. Let yourself breathe with that. Because I feel like the next card is going to show us what deeper truth or lesson your soul is being asked to take forward from all of this. And now I'm seeing the Chariot. And this feels like your higher self stepping forward. Clearer now, stronger now, more directed. I'm getting the feeling that the lesson being integrated through all of this is not only about protection, it is about movement. It is about learning that your energy was never meant to remain parked inside survival. This card feels like the soul remembering its direction, remembering its will, remembering that peace is not only something you protect, it is also something you move with, something you choose, something you steer toward again and again. The energy around this card suggests that your higher self is learning the difference between reaction and alignment. Reaction moves because something outside of you pushed it. Alignment moves because something inside of you knows where it is going. That feels very important here, because this whole experience may have sharpened your discernment in a way that could not have happened through comfort ayun. Not to harden you, but to clarify you, to show you what belongs in your field and what does not, what deserves your energy and what no longer does. I'm also picking up that this card carries a lesson around self-trust, a deeper trust, the kind that does not need constant proof before it listens to its own knowing. You are beginning to understand that when your spirit signals movement, hesitation only prolongs the lesson, but when you follow that signal, something powerful begins to organize around you. Your focus, your boundaries, your protection, your path. Everything starts gathering in one direction. This card feels like mastery through forward motion. Not because the conflict was easy, but because it taught you that staying centered is not passive. It is active. It is a living choice, a sacred discipline. And there may also be outside forces shifting now to reflect that. Situations becoming more obvious, distances becoming necessary, momentum beginning to favor truth over confusion. You are not moving in circles the way you once were. You are moving through. And that is a very different energy. Let that settle in your body for a moment, because I feel like the next card is going to open the final emotional layer that still needs to be seen before this transformation fully reveals itself. And now I'm seeing the Nine of Cups reversed, and this feels very revealing, because the way your personal power is changing does not look like surface confidence. It looks deeper than that, quieter than that, more honest than that. I'm getting the feeling that this card is showing a part of you that no longer wants false relief, no longer wants borrowed comfort, no longer wants to feel temporarily soothed while something deeper remains unhealed. That is a very powerful shift, because sometimes personal power first changes through disappointment, through realizing that certain things do not nourish you the way they once seemed to. Certain people, certain patterns, certain forms of reassurance. This card feels like you are becoming less available to illusion, less willing to call something peace when it is only distraction, less willing to accept emotional fragments in place of real fulfillment. And that change may feel strange at times, because as your power grows, your appetite changes too. What once felt enough may no longer feel aligned. What once helped you cope may no longer help you heal. The energy around this card suggests that your power is moving away from external validation and back toward inner truth, back toward discernment, back toward emotional sovereignty. You are beginning to notice that real satisfaction cannot be built on spiritual depletion. It cannot be built on pretending. It cannot be built on surviving. It has to be built on wholeness, and that awareness is transforming you. I'm also picking up a quiet emotional layer here. Part of you may still be grieving the version of life you hoped would come from being patient enough, understanding enough, strong enough. You may be seeing now that some outcomes were never meant to feed your soul, only to teach it, and that can be tender. But it is also freeing, very freeing. Because once you stop reaching for what cannot truly satisfy you, your energy returns, your standards rise, your intuition sharpens, your presence becomes more self-honoring. This card feels like your power is becoming more selective, more inwardly led, more unwilling to settle for what only looks full from the outside. Sit with that for a moment, because I feel like the final card is going to show us who you are, becoming after all of this. And that energy feels like the clearest chapter yet. And now I'm seeing the Three of Wands. And this feels like the clearest exhale of the whole reading. Because the future version of you in this card is not looking backward, not searching, not bracing, not waiting for the same shadow to return. I'm getting the feeling that this is the version of you who has stepped beyond the reach of this old entanglement. Not because the past did not matter, but because your energy no longer lives there. This card feels like distance in the most healing sense. Spiritual distance, emotional distance, energetic distance. The kind that comes when your soul has finally moved far enough forward that what once disturbed you can no longer define your inner climate. The energy around this card suggests that you are becoming someone who sees farther, now. Farther than the wound, farther than the fear, farther than the need to keep checking whether something is still following you. You are beginning to live from the horizon again, from vision, from expansion, from a deeper relationship with what is possible for you. And that feels so important because this topic began with the feeling of interference, of something being aimed toward you. But this final card shows that your path is no longer organized around defense. It is organized around direction. You are moving towards something, building something, becoming someone more spacious inside, more self-led, more unavailable to energies that once tried to pull you into survival. I'm also picking up that this future version of you carries a quiet authority. Not loud, not performative, just clear. Clear in what belongs, clear in what does not, clear in what you will no longer carry. And because of that clarity, your world begins to open differently. Your energy begins to travel farther than the conflict ever could. So if this reading found you at the right moment, let it be a reminder. You are not only healing from what happened, you are outgrowing the energetic world it came from. You are entering a chapter where your peace has more momentum than the disturbance ever did. If this message resonated with you, you can share in the comments. And if you would like more readings like this, you can subscribe and stay connected here. For now, just take a breath. And remember, something is shifting in your favor. Quietly, steadily, and deeply.